Heartwarming journey. Amish bishop discovers his gay son's love. 10 years of hidden pain exposed. The town hall stood tall against the fading Ohio sun, its weathered wood and worn signs a testament to years of tradition and community. Bishop Samuel Yoder, a revered figure, felt his heart racing. He was known for his unwavering faith, his love for family, and his role in guiding his people. But today, an undercurrent of panic coursed through him. He couldn't shake the tension brewing in his chest. How could he have been so blind? For over a decade, his son Eli had concealed his truth, the truth that sent shockwaves through the very core of Samuel's being. The room, filled with familiar faces. Samuel thought back to their last quiet evening together, a crisp autumn night beside the flickering lamp, the air thick with warmth and unspoken words. They had laughed, shared stories, and Eli's eyes shone like stars, innocent and hopeful. Samuel had noticed the glint before, but never questioned it. He had thought nothing more of it, not knowing the weight Eli carried. A burden of silence wrapped tightly, like a cloak obscuring his true self. Years of community gatherings passed before Samuel learned the truth that Eli had long been living with David, his partner, a man his father had never invited into their circle. His heart sank. A tidal wave of emotion threatened to sweep him away. If only he could go back, desperately rewrite the narrative shrouding their lives. During an economic downturn that cracked open the seams of their small town, tensions erupted. People huddled together, discussing dwindling resources and looming hardships. But in that charged atmosphere, Eli stood up, eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination. Samuel's heart raced as he realized this was not just a community meeting. This was a reckoning. Everyone. Eli's voice broke the silence, trembling yet powerful. I need to speak the truth. I'm gay. I've been with David for 10 years. And I can't hide anymore. The revelation hung in the air, palpable and heavy. Samuel's face turned pale, a cold sweat enveloping him. Gasps echoed around the room. Whispers crackled like fireflies in the night. Samuel felt his world tilting, anger and love intertwining. Reeling from the impact of this moment that he never anticipated, Eli's words reached their peak, a cry for acceptance that echoed off the walls. Samuel stood frozen, caught between two worlds, one that taught him tradition, and another that implored him to love unconditionally. Heartache swallowed him as he looked at Eli, seeing the boy he had raised, the man he didn't fully understand. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Samuel's heart ached, tears refusing to be held back. This moment, this raw display of vulnerability, was like standing on the brink of a great chasm, love and tradition pulling him one way and the truth of his son the other. As Eli's eyes bore into him, Samuel faced the hardest decision of his life. Could love, in all its complexity, surpass the weight of his beliefs? Silence enveloped them, thick with anticipation, as the assembled crowd waited for his response. The air was electric with unasked questions, and Samuel stood at a precipice, wondering how this chapter would end. Would he embrace his son's truth, or let the chasm widen between them? The crowd's murmurs faded into a tense stillness as Samuel drew a shaky breath, his gaze locked on Eli. The weight of his son's truth pressed down on him, a physical heaviness. Eli, standing there vulnerable, seemed to radiate an energy that both terrified and intrigued him. Samuel could see the vulnerability in Eli's stance, the slight tremor in his hands. He was searching for something: acceptance, perhaps forgiveness, or maybe just a glimmer of understanding. Samuel's heart wrenched. This was his child, the boy he cradled in his arms, the young man he had watched grow, and now the man who had taken a leap into the unknown. The tension in the room was palpable. Faces all around them shifted, some wore shock, others were filled with anger, and a few showed a flicker of support. Samuel could feel eyes on him, assessing, judging. It was a whirlwind of opinions that could drown him if he let it. But what mattered most was Eli. Samuel's voice cracked. He took a step forward, then paused, feeling the crowd's collective breath held tight, as if waiting for a cue. "You're my son. I can't pretend to understand all of this," he admitted, his voice trembling with the weight of his confession. "But I love you. God knows I love you." Eli's shoulders relaxed just a fraction, the tension hidden behind years of fear beginning to release. "I just want to be true to myself," he said, the raw honesty spilling from his lips. "I'm tired, Dad. Tired of pretending. I want to be me, and I want you to know me." As those words hung in the air, Samuel faced a choice: cling to tradition or embrace his son wholly. A part of him felt the urge to retreat to the safety of old beliefs. Yet another, deeper part, the part that had loved Eli unconditionally, echoed the same words. Eli spoke a desire for authenticity. The room reverberated with tension as Samuel squared his shoulders. "All I've ever wanted was for my children to be happy," he stated, his voice growing stronger. "It may take me time to understand, but I want to learn. You deserve that." Eli's eyes glistened with unshed tears, hope replacing despair. Then, one by one, the faces in the crowd began to soften. A few people nodded in unison, showing signs of acceptance. But there was still a long way to go. But just as a flicker of warmth began to spread through Samuel's heart, a voice rang out, harsh and filled with judgment. "This is wrong, Bishop. You can't condone this." The words sliced through the fragile moment, shattering the tentative peace. Samuel's heart sank, realizing that not everyone would accept Eli's truth as he was trying to. Heated murmurs ignited, a rift forming not just within the community, but within his own family as well. Eli flinched at the outburst, hurt etching deeper lines onto his face. Samuel felt the cold grip of fear again. "Wait," he shouted, trying to regain control, desperate to protect his son. "This isn't just about beliefs. It's about love. And love is what binds us, not the rules of society." A challenge hung palpably in the air. Would the community rally around Eli, or would they turn their backs? Samuel stood firm, heart racing, poised on the edge of a fight he never wanted but now found himself leading. The question wasn't he only for others. It rested heavily on his shoulders too. Would he join the embrace of love and acceptance, or yield to the pressure that threatened to burst the fragile bonds of his family as they entered a new chapter of their lives? A thick silence descended, the answer looming just out of reach. The murmurs in the crowd turned into a cacophony, an unexpected storm brewing among the faces that had once seemed familiar. Samuel felt grounded yet adrift, like a small boat caught in turbulent waters. Some dared to shout for Eli to repent. Others merely shook their heads, unable to reconcile the boy they once knew with the man standing before them. When Eli flinched, Samuel's heart shattered anew. "Enough!" Samuel's voice rang out, filled with more force than he anticipated. The room stilled again, shock rippling across the anxious faces. This was not merely his son's fight. It was his, too. "If you can't see that love is greater than the boundaries we create, then I don't know how we can continue. Eli deserves our respect. He deserves to be loved for who he is." He noticed a couple of friends step forward, nodding though their smiles were tinged with sadness. Their courage gave him strength, but he could still feel the weight of resistance pressing down on him. The murmurers were not just strangers. They were old friends, neighbors, the very fabric of this community woven tightly through years of shared joys and sorrows. With a deep breath, Samuel glanced back at Eli, whose face reflected a turbulent mix of fear and hope. "Let us leave," he whispered, the fire in his heart urging him to shield Eli. "Let us find a place where we can talk." Eli hesitated, glancing back at the crowd with uncertainty. "But Dad, what if they don't understand?" Samuel interjected, feeling time slip through his fingers. "If they don't want to hear your truth, I won't force you to stay. You shouldn't have to live in fear anymore." He took a step toward the exit, not waiting for Eli's approval, but urging him along. The tension had shifted, the collective gaze now transforming into a mix of confrontation and awkward disbelief. With each step they took away from the gathered crowd, Samuel felt a flicker of defiance ignite within him. They were leaving behind ignorance, but he knew the journey was just beginning. Once outside, the cool evening air hugged them like a long-lost friend. Samuel inhaled deeply, heart pounding. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, finally allowing himself to face Eli fully. I'm sorry this has been so hard for you. I never wanted to make it harder. Eli rubbed the back of his neck, a nervous gesture that tugged at Samuel's heartstrings. It's not your fault, Dad. I was just scared to be who I am. Scared you'd hate me. Samuel shook his head, leaning closer to his son. How could I ever hate my own flesh and blood? You mean too much to me. I will always love you. Amidst the chaos, Samuel suddenly noticed the stars, twinkling against the deepening night. Where do we go from here? Eli asked tentatively, his words slipping through the air like a whisper of vulnerability. We move forward, Samuel replied, the warmth of hope breaking through the uncertainty. We figure this out together. They walked side by side, nothing but promise lingering between them. But within him swirled the worry of what lay ahead. Would the community stand against them? Were there more battles to fight, more tears to shed? As they turned down the long road leading away from the gathering, Samuel felt the pang of doubt mixed with optimism. A new chapter, filled with love, acceptance, and maybe even resistance awaited. But one thing was clear, this fight wasn't finished. Dad, Eli's voice broke into his thoughts, pulling Samuel back to the moment. What if they chase us down? What if they come after you? Samuel paused, contemplating the uncertainty ahead with a mix of trepidation and determination. Then we confront them together, he said firmly, feeling the warmth radiating between them. Eli nodded. In unison, they stepped forward, the soft sounds of the night whispering encouragement, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Would love conquer the storm that lay ahead? The ground beneath them felt both solid and shifting, like the world itself was ready for change. A sleek shadow darted across their path, and Samuel's heart raced anew. They weren't just fighting for acceptance anymore. They were preparing for a battle that would test every thread of their bond. What awaited them at dawn? Would they rise stronger together, or was there something lurking that could tear them apart? The moon hung high, casting silver rays that danced upon the cobblestone road beneath Samuel and Eli's feet. Each step forward was a mix of relief and dread, a quiet resolve swelling between them like a tide that refused to pull back. The air felt charged, as if it carried the weight of their unspoken fears and the adrenaline from their hasty departure. Can we stop for a minute? Eli broke the silence, his voice trembling. Samuel turned to see the vulnerability etched on his son's face, the shadows of the past still clinging tightly to him. Of course, buddy, Samuel replied, feeling the urgency in Eli's request. They found a secluded little nook beside a grove of tall trees, the rustling leaves whispering secrets only they could hear. Samuel leaned against the rough bark, and Eli took a seat on the cool grass beside him, looking small and uncertain. What if they really don't accept me? Eli voiced the very fear that had been gnawing at Samuel, the same fear that had kept him silent for too long. What if they only see who they think I am, instead of who I really am? Samuel's heart ached. He wished he could erase Eli's worries with a wave of his hand. I don't know what they'll do, but I do know you are not alone in this, he said, soft yet firm. You are brave, Eli, braver than any of them could ever understand. Just being you in this world is an act of courage. Eli nodded, tears pooling in his eyes. Sometimes I just wish it wasn't this hard. Samuel took a breath, swallowing hard against his own rising emotions. We can find a way to help them see you, he insisted quietly, and if they won tea, then it's their loss. You're worth tea tied to their acceptance. The truth of those words hung in the air between them, a fragile thread that pulled tighter with each heartbeat. Eli wiped his eyes, a faint smile breaking through the clouds of doubt. Thanks, Dad. I hope we can have that conversation. But what if it goes wrong? Then we navigate that together. No matter what, Samuel promised, the certainty in his voice surprising even himself. We face it as a family. Just then, Samuel heard distant shouts echoing through the night air. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. Panic flared in his chest. What is that? He muttered, scanning the trees for any sign of movement. Eli's eyes widened, and Samuel stood, the adrenaline flooding his veins. We need to get out of here. They hurried into the cover of the trees, adrenaline pushing them deeper into the tangled underbrush. Heartbeats quickened, both with fear and the thrill of defying the expected. The shouts grew louder, voices sharp and accusatory, setting Samuel's nerves on edge. They were looking for them. Dad, maybe we should go back. Talk to them again. Eli's voice cracked, uncertainty creeping back in. Back, Samuel said, whisper yelling as they crouched behind a thick tree trunk. And give them another chance to tear you down? No, Eli. We're not doing that. But they're our community. What if someone gets hurt? Eli's eyes shimmered with panic. It hurt Samuel to see his son in distress, torn between the life that was once comforting and the new truth they were carving out together. Samuel put a hand on Eli's shoulder, squeezing gently. We must protect your heart first. We'll plan. We'll act. But not tonight. In the distance, a branch snapped, and the shouts grew louder as the community closed in. Samuel's heart raced as he realized the seriousness of their situation. They were being hunted down for the truth they both had fought to express. Dad, Eli whispered, fear threatening to drown him. Stay here. Stay quiet. I'll draw them away, Samuel said, a sense of clarity settling over him. He could feel their unity pulsing, a bond strengthening in the face of adversity. Before Eli could protest, Samuel took a deep breath, steeling himself. No matter what happens next, remember, you are loved. With that, he stepped away from the safety of the trees, ready to confront whatever awaited him in the darkness. Was Samuel prepared for what was about to unfold? As Eli's voice caught in his throat behind him, the true test of their love and strength loomed just ahead, ready to ignite their story into the flames of resistance. The night air felt like ice against Samuel's skin as he emerged from behind the trees. The urgent shouts swelled, tainted with a mixture of anger and confusion. Each word sliced through the stillness, threatening to shatter the moment of resolve he had built within himself. He felt like a tightrope walker, balancing on the edge of fear and determination. Samuel, one voice called out, recognizing him. Where's Eli? We need to talk. His heart hammered. The darkness ahead seemed to pulse with shadows of the past, lingering memories of a community that valued tradition over understanding. He took a step forward, forcing himself into the open, into the light of their lanterns. He's not coming, he said, steadying his voice, even as it quivered in his throat that a figure emerged from the crowd, a familiar face filled with disappointment and concern. You know this isn't right. You're leading him astray. It was Peter, Eli's childhood friend, and a voice of authority in their community. Samuel had always respected him. Now, he felt a surge of anger. I'm not leading anyone astray, Samuel shot back, feeling the fire of protectiveness rise. I'm helping him find himself, and if that doesn't fit your mold, then maybe it's time for all of you to reevaluate what you truly believe. The crowd murmured, a rustling of unease mixed with disbelief. Samuel could see their brows furrowed, faces painted with confusion and fear. But he also noticed a few glimmers of empathy flickering in the eyes of some, a subtle acknowledgement of their shared humanity. Where's Eli? Peter pressed, his voice combative but softening slightly, sensing the tension. Safe. Far safer than he would be with your judgment lurking, Samuel replied, fear for his son tightening in his chest. Eli was depending on him, and there was no backing down now. You need to understand. Eli is not the problem here, your fear is. Another voice from the crowd added, but we've known him his whole life. And in that time, have you ever truly known him? Samuel posed, forcing them to confront their own blindness. This isn't about him. It's about how you're all so afraid of what you don't understand. The crowd's energy shifted, some faces folding into contemplation while others clenched in denial. Samuel took a step forward, pushing past his fear. He is my son, he said firmly, and he is loved, exactly as he is. You can either stand with us or stay in the past. His words hung in the air, charged with the bitterness of every moment he had squashed down inside him, every ounce of pain dealt to his son. Then, a break in the tension, the flicker of a lantern caught Eli's eye across the clearing. Samuel cast a quick glance back, hope intertwining with dread. Please, Eli's voice echoed, clear and piercing, breaking through the dark cloud of fear. Listen to my dad. I need you all to help me be who I am. Samuel's breath caught. That was it, a declaration, a plea wrapped in layers of vulnerability. The crowd turned, the heavy weight of expectation pressing down on them. Eli? Peter whispered, eyes wide, his voice softening in recognition. Yeah, it's me, Eli said, stepping cautiously into the circle of soft light. I know this is hard. I'm scared too. But I can't hide anymore. I want to be free. We can figure this out together. Samuel watched, a trembling ball of pride and fear in his chest. He could almost feel the crackling tension in the air as Eli took a stand, refusing to retreat from who he was. But would they accept him? Would they see the brave young man standing before them rather than the boy they had known? The silence thickened, and Samuel could feel the collective breath of the community, holding onto the moment like a fragile promise. Together, he whispered to Eli, who nodded, determination gleaming in his eyes. At that moment, they were no longer running. They were standing strong, united against the tide of history. Would the love of their community weather the storm that lay ahead, or would new divisions carve their family apart forever? With everything poised on the brink, Samuel felt caught between hope and dread as the unspoken question hung heavy in the night air. Eli's heart raced as he stood before the crowd, the flickering lanterns casting an ethereal glow on faces he had known forever. Would this be the moment he had longed for? The moment he had feared the most? Eli, this ISNTU, a woman called out, her voice wavering as tears glimmered in her eyes. You were always different. We thought what? Eli interjected, feeling the warmth of Samuel's supportive presence nearby. That you could know me, but only if I fit neatly into your understanding? I can't stay in a box. That is not who I am. A ripple of murmurs surged through the crowd, some voices clashing while others whispered encouragement. Samuel felt the tension pressing down like a heavy blanket. Eli's words hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. Different? Peter said, taking a step closer. Different how? You were one of us, Eli. We loved you. I loved you too, Eli replied, frustration and love intertwining in his voice. But loving me means accepting all of me. It means allowing me to love who I want, to be who I am. I can't keep hiding just to meet your expectations. Some faces softened, but others tightened with disbelief. A few stepped back, almost instinctively. Samuel's heart sank. Listen to him, he urged, raising his voice above the whispers. Try to feel his pain and his courage. We all want love, acceptance, belonging. What are we fighting for if it means pushing away those we care about? A man at the edge of the crowd shook his head, his jaw clenched. What if this is just a phase? What if he regrets it? Eli's features softened. And what if it's not? What if this is me standing finally in my truth? You're not just pushing me away. You're pushing away a chance for understanding. Why can't we move forward together? The unease began to climb alongside awareness in the crowd. Samuel sensed a slow shift, a crack forming in their walls of fear. He stepped alongside Eli, his voice steady. As a father, my heart breaks at the thought of losing my son. But it's far worse to lose a part of him to someone else's fear. The murmurs intensified, questions bubbling just beneath the surface. Would they embrace Eli, or lose him to the shadows he had hoped to escape? Eli, you're making a choice that we can't understand, Peter said, his voice tight, but his eyes searching. What do you want from us? I want understanding. I want to feel the warmth of acceptance from my family, Eli said, his emotions spilling over, but there was a calmness in his plea. I want a chance to show you who I am without fear of judgment or shame. Can we take that step together? As silence enveloped them again, Samuel could see the gears turning in their neighbors' minds. It wasn't just about Eli anymore. It was about love, family, and the courage to break free from the confines of tradition. That a woman in the front took a deep breath, her voice trembling as she spoke. Eli, we've known you as one of us, but we've never really seen who you are not like this. Can we try? Can we learn together? Tears welled in Samuel's eyes at the glimmer of hope flickering from the edges of the crowd. Eli glanced at him, uncertainty battling with determination. He stepped forward again, vulnerability coating his words. I truly believe we can find a way to understand. But I need you all to meet me halfway. I need your hearts to join mine. In that fragile moment, it felt like the whole world paused. Samuel held his breath. Would they take the leap into understanding? But just as the atmosphere lightened, a sudden commotion broke out from the edge of the crowd. A figure pushed forward, eyes fierce and unyielding, bringing a wave of tension crashing back to the clearing. You will not allow this to happen, the figure said sharply, a voice dripping with authority. Samuel's heart sank. The true battle wasn't over yet. How would they face the war that lay ahead? The crowd fell silent, the sudden arrival of the figure sending waves of unease rippling through the air. Eli stood still, his heart thudding like a drum in a quiet hall. Who are you to challenge his truth? Samuel blurted out, anger seeping into his voice. His protective instincts flared. This wasn't just about Eli anymore. It was about standing up for what was right, for love. What I am, the figure shot back, is someone who understands what this family was built upon. Tradition, faith. You're tearing apart the fabric of our community with this rebellion. Eli felt shadows flickering in the corners of his mind. Rebellion? He repeated, his voice trembling with emotion. I'm not rebelling against anything other than the expectation to live a lie. Love is the essence of our beliefs, isn't it? Isn't that what faith is about? A few of the crowd exchanged glances, uncertainty etched on their faces. They seemed caught between the familiar comfort of tradition and the raw sincerity radiating from Eli. Eli, you can't choose who you love, the figure asserted, pointing a finger as if it could erase Eli's truth. You're risking not just your future, but everyone else standing here. I am choosing, though, Eli replied, grounding himself. I'm choosing to be true to who I am. Isn't that the greatest act of love? To live honestly? Panic rippled through those watching as they processed Eli's words. Samuel felt the tension rise and pulse with potential. It'll be harder to lose each other than to accept what's true, he implored the crowd. The tension thickened as the bishop didn't falter. Your so-called happiness will bring shame upon this family, Eli. You forsake everything we've ever known. Shame? Eli echoed, his voice barely above a whisper. Tears threatened to spill over, but he held steady. The only shame is in hiding who I am. To love openly is to embrace life. To live cloaked in darkness is to suffocate. Don't you see? But the bishop stood tall, fortified by years of staunch tradition. You're mistaken. Faith is not about personal happiness. It's about sacrifice, duty. Samuel stepped forward again, feeling the weight of every eye in the clearing. But ask yourself, Bishop, isn't it our duty to love our family? To accept them fully? To lead with compassion? In that moment, a soft voice broke through the silence. Yes, right, a woman murmured from the back, her hands trembling at her sides. We can either choose to lose Eli or embrace him. It's not a question of morals, it's about love. Slowly, heads began to nod in agreement. The crowd was shifting, and each nod felt like a softening, a step toward acceptance. But just as hope began to blossom, the bishop's expression hardened. You'll regret this, he warned. You've spent years building a home based on dignity. You'll lose your way. I want to stand by and allow it. Eli's stomach lurched. Is that who you think I am? A threat to dignity? I stand here, not to destroy, but to build something new with love. Fear pierced through the air, hanging heavy, but Eli refused to back down. It was now or never. Samuel felt the moment teetering. Everything depended on what would happen next. Would the crowd find the courage to accept Eli for who he was, or retreat back to the familiarity of their traditions? The eyes glancing between Eli, Samuel, and the bishop shifted nervously. The decision hung over them, and everyone knew that this moment could redefine everything. The crowd might have started to move, but the door to acceptance was narrow, and regret could sneak through if they faltered. Will you love him? He boldly asked the crowd, heart pounding with anxiety. Can we step into the light, together? Eli took a deep breath, waiting for the response that could alter the course of their lives forever. Eli's heart raced as he stood before the crowd, every second stretching into an eternity. He could feel the tension, thick as fog, wrapping around him. Samuel's question hung in the air, stirring the hearts of those present. Would they embrace him despite the storm brewing within the walls of tradition? Whispers began to circulate among the crowd, rising and falling like waves crashing against rocks. It was a simple, yet profound question Samuel had posed. Will you love him? Eli could see faces he recognized. Some were creased with age and wisdom, while others shimmered with youthful hope. Eye contact flickered, revealing a shared struggle. The figure what Eli knew as the bishop stared down Samuel, the disapproval etched into wrinkles around his eyes deepening. This is a path to destruction, he warned, voice low but laced with authority. You will lead this family to shame and despair. You must choose loyalty over falsehood. And you must choose understanding over judgment, a voice shouted from the back. It was a man Eli had grown up with, a childhood friend. We're not asking you to abandon our roots, but to grow new branches. Can't we all find common ground in love? Eli felt lethargy lift off his shoulders, replaced with a flicker of hope. Could the crowd really be shifting, opening? The bishop's expression soured, a world of disappointment pooling in his gaze. Struggling, Eli squeezed Samuel's hand, grounding himself against the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside. Then, something unexpected happened. A mother stepped forward, tears pooling in her eyes. When I held my baby in my arms, all I wanted was for him to be happy, she admitted, voice breaking. And he deserves to be happy, no matter who he loves. As her words echoed through the air, Eli saw the crowd's hesitant expressions morph. The nodding grew more confident. A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembly. One after another, voices rose in support, creating a chorus of love. Let him be, another person called out. Our faith is not about exclusion, it's about connection. Tears spilled from Eli's eyes as he glanced at Samuel, his heart swelling with gratitude. Samuel nodded, offering him a reassuring smile. They stood together, a symbol of what love could conquer. The bishop's frustration boiled over. You'll open the door to chaos. Where will it end? His voice cracked under the weight of the emotional echo surrounding him, but Eli stepped forward, emboldened. This isn't chaos. This is life. We're all just trying to find our way, and I refuse to navigate it in the shadows. Love needs light, and together we can find that. For a heartbeat, the clearing fell silent. Eli felt the weight of every gaze on him, their hearts as tangled as his. What would they ultimately decide? Then Eli caught sight of a young girl no older than 8 gripping her mother's hand. She stared up at her mother, confusion mixing with curiosity. Mommy, why is everyone scared? Doesn't he love make us happy? Gasps rang out, a wave of realization washing over the crowd. Eli's breath hitched. Was it really that simple? Love. Pure, uncomplicated love. Suddenly, the anxiety broke, and laughter bubbled up, transforming the tension. Like a rising tide, acceptance surged through the crowd. Eli felt warmth radiating outward. They were choosing to stand beside him. But before Eli could fully process the moment, joy and dread intertwined. The bishop's response shattered the fragile victory. You may think you're steering us toward happiness, but you're only setting up a future filled with regret. Eli's heart sank at the despair lurking in the bishop's voice. Was he truly blind to the light blossoming around him? I won't regret loving my son, Samuel said, stepping closer to Eli, as if to shield him from the incoming storm. None of us will. As the bishop took a step back, uncertainty shadowed his features. With hearts racing, the crowd awaited his response. Would the bishop yield? Would he join in embracing the love that filled the air, or retreat into the dark? Eli held his breath, staring into the abyss of possibility. Would they forge a new path together, or would traditions win out again? In that pivotal moment, Eli knew one thing. Whatever lay ahead, they couldn't let fear dictate their family's fate. The next words whispered from the bishop's lips could change everything. Eli felt the air crackle with anticipation. The crowd leaned in, breaths held as if the world paused to listen. The bishop opened his mouth, but instead of the rage or disappointment Eli expected, a strange mixture of confusion and pain washed over the elder's face. Love, the bishop began, his voice quivering. Love should not cause division. Yet here we are, torn apart by it. Eli spotted Samuel's hand tightening around his own, the pressure both a comfort and a reminder of the stakes at play. A flicker of human vulnerability flashed across the bishop's eyes, and for a fleeting moment, Eli wondered if he had caught sight of something deeper than rigid tradition. I have spent my life teaching about purity, about a kind of love I believed was true, the bishop continued, his voice quaking with emotion. But perhaps I have been blind to the way love grows in unexpected places. A hush enveloped the crowd. Work-worn faces turned to one another, fear mixing with a hopeful glimmer. Had the bishop started to shift? I thought. He hesitated, searching for words that might bridge this chasm. That love was simple, easy to define. Perhaps I have reduced it to rules rather than understanding. Around them, whispers stirred with an electric charge. He asked, listening. Is he really going to change? Eli's heart raced. Could this be the moment of transformation they all craved? Yet doubt clung like a shadow, gnawing at his resolve. Would the bishop retract his words? I know I cannot erase the pain I've caused, the bishop said, his gaze dropping to the ground. But love should bring joy, not shame. Samuel, Eli, you deserve that joy. A collective gasp broke free from the crowd, then silence fell again. Eli could hardly process what he was hearing. It felt surreal. Hope began to spread, delicate yet insistent, and Eli's chest tightened with emotion. Samuel stepped forward, squeezing Eli's hand tighter, guiding him into the spotlight. Love is not just about acceptance. It's about belonging, he said gently. It's about understanding that we can all find a way to love one another, despite our differences. The bishop looked up, almost pleading. Then teach me, Samuel. Teach us, he replied, the weight of his age-heavy voice trembling. What does it mean to truly love? A wave of murmured encouragement echoed through the crowd, strong and unwavering. Eli felt a swell of gratitude towards Samuel, a beacon of strength in this tempest. Together, they could forge a new way. I think love is understanding, Eli found himself saying. It's seeing the person behind the labels, the heartbeat behind the words. It means risking vulnerability, no matter how difficult. Emotions cascaded within Eli, both excitement and fear mingling together. Could they really reshape an entire community's perspective? Suddenly, a young woman, a few rows back, called out. But what if we stumble? What if our steps seem unsure? Eli turned to her, heart pounding. Then we embrace our mistakes. We learn. Love is messy, and sometimes it feels like a wandering path. But every step forward is worth it if it leads us to understanding. The crowd responded with murmurs of encouragement, and Eli dared to glance at the bishop again. A hint of a smile began to spread across his lips. Hope bloomed in the air, fragile yet radiant. Then, the unexpected happened. The bishop took a deep breath, lifted his chin, and proclaimed, "Then let us walk this path together, hand in hand." Cheering erupted from the crowd, a mixture of disbelief and joy. Eli felt tears welling up as he looked at Samuel. They had started something profound, something that resonated deeply. The bishop had opened the door, but would the journey they were embarking on be one of healing or turmoil? As the crowd swelled with sentiment, Eli's heart danced on the edge of hope, but shadows still lingered. Would they confront the resistance that lay ahead, or would the newfound courage vanish under old fears? In that moment of joy, a single question flickered through Eli's mind. Had they truly begun to change the course of their lives? The moon still hung high above the small Ohio town, its silver glow illuminating the faces of the gathered crowd. Eli felt a mix of exhilaration and trepidation as the energy shifted around him. The air was alive, charged with something that tingled at the back of his neck. Hope. Samuel stood at his side, pride and love radiating from him like warmth from a hearth. I just want to see people come together, Eli admitted, his voice soft yet firm. Not just for me, but for everyone who feels they can't be themselves. The bishop regarded him, eyes reflecting the fatigue of years spent upholding unwavering traditions. But something was different now. Something in their shared struggle had begun to break through the walls between them. So let us choose love, not judgment, the bishop said, sounding worn but softened. Let us learn from one another. A wave of murmurs spread through the crowd, tension ebbing like a tide as realization dawned on many that love could exist outside rigid expectations. Eli breathed deeply, tears threatening to spill once more. What if we started by sharing our stories? He suggested, his heart pounding as he spoke. What if we created a space for understanding? A woman stepped forward, her voice quivering but determined. I was terrified of what you'd become, Eli. But all I see is someone strong enough to be true. Eli's heart soared, the vulnerability in the woman's voice infectious. With each moment, the barriers started to break down. And maybe we can help each other learn to embrace differences, Samuel added, nodding toward those who expressed doubts, eyes glistening. Slowly, more began to show their willingness to connect. A man who once held traditionalist views took a step forward, hands trembling. I thought I'd lose my faith, he said. But Eli, your courage is teaching me something I've been blind to. Encouragement erupted, voices rising to form a chorus of acceptance. Eli felt himself glowing, the warmth spreading through him like sunlight after a long winter. Familiar faces lined the crowd, now softening with understanding rather than rigid disapproval. "I'm still learning," the bishop admitted, his voice a little steadier as he leaned in. "I want to do it right this time." And there it was. The thread had been cast, now woven into a communal embrace as they turned towards each other, no longer at odds. Eli felt the weight of love and acceptance, something he dreamed of and fought for. "What if we held gatherings?" Eli proposed, glancing around the audience, eyes sparkling with determination. "Share experiences. What if we could bring our struggles to the table? You could do that, share truths, hold hands," a young woman encouraged, her voice ringing clear. "Let us build a bridge from pain to love." The crowd erupted in applause, echoing like a choir of newfound hope. Each note filled the air with possibility, a promise of redemptive relationships budding like flowers in spring after a long, dark winter. Samuel stepped forward, a proud smile breaking through. "Eli, you're not alone in this fight. It's our family, our community that needs to embrace your truth as if it were our own." The words seemed to resonate deeply, wrapping around hearts like a comforting blanket. Eli's chest swelled. "Thank you," he breathed, overwhelmed with gratitude. "Together, we can show that love is limitless. It exists in our differences." The murmurs of agreement washed over them again as Eli dared to glance at the bishop. There it was, a nod, a flicker of warmth sparking into the light. "Then together we shall," the bishop said, newfound resolution evident in his voice. "Let us take the first steps towards understanding." As the realization sunk in, Eli felt tears streak down his face, not of sorrow this time, but pure joy. The crowd had shifted, not just in words but in spirit. They had embraced the idea of acceptance. They were ready to navigate the unsteady waters of transformation. A young boy's voice rang out playfully amidst the honed emotions, breaking the tension. "Can we have an ice cream party too?" Laughter erupted like fireworks, signaling the evening's promise of lightheartedness. "Yes," Eli laughed, wiping away his tears, buoyed by the moment. "Let us celebrate our truths." Families began to pull together, merging words of support into acts of connection. Eli watched as arms wrapped around shoulders, hands clasped, hearts mending. The journey wasn't over, and yet, it was just beginning. They were stepping into a world where understanding could flourish and grow, where Eli and Samuel, father and son, could shine as symbols of love. They would fight for every indivisible heart, breaking down biases and ushering in a new era. Just as the last rays of sunlight kissed the horizon, Eli looked around at the faces alight with warmth and unity. Hope rose like a phoenix from the ashes, promising brighter journeys ahead. "I believe we can build that world together." Eli's voice surged, echoing with conviction that struck straight to the core. And with that, the community began to take those first brave steps towards healing. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. Your love fuels our journey.